So basically we were able to create a project here. Of course, we got an empty folder, which is your working directory. And we also able to get the Git in it. Remember we got a main branch. We have initialized the Git project. Now, basically the way you can check if everything is working fine, you can say Git status, and we are doing this from last one video, right? So Git status will give you the status of your Git project. It says on branch main. That means we are on the main branch now. Of course, in future, we'll see how to create different branches. And it says there is no commits yet. So of course, we have not done the commit yet. And then the project itself is empty. Now what I will do is I will create a very simple file. Now the thing is, it doesn't matter what type of project you're working on, a software project or a book project, you do create different files, right? Now I don't want to go for any language specific things here related to programming. Let me create a general file. And let me name this as my first code.txt or txt. So instead of going for .java, .c, .cs, which is C#, .cpp, let's go for .txt. Now this can be a coding file as well. Git for Git, everything is same. It will treat txt as any other file. Okay, so what I will do here is, well, I will write a very simple statement and I will say, hello world. Okay, so that's it. Nothing much, a very simple line in my first line of code. Now the thing is, this project or this file is there in your working project, right? If you remember, we have talked about those different areas, right? We have a working area. So working directory, this is where you edit your files, and as a programmer, you work with. But if you want Git to handle this, you need to add that in a staging area. If I don't do that, what happens? Let's try. Now here what I will do is I will say again Git status. It says there is an untracked file. Now the thing is, if you want to commit something, if you want Git to take care of some files for different versions, you have to give that to Git. And the way you can do that is by adding that particular file to the staging area. Now at this point, we have not done that. And that's why it says, so let's read everything. So it says on branch main, that perfectly makes sense. No commits yet. Of course, we have not done the commit yet. But it says there is an untracked file. Okay, there might be multiple files, but here we only have one, which is first code.txt. Okay, it says nothing to add to commit, but untracked files present. Okay, you know what happens? Let's say we have this file, and now I want Git to handle it. Now the way you can add it to the Git by using something called a commit, right? So we use Git commit. Imagine Git commit as saving something, but then Git will not directly save this. You have to make sure that you add this in staging, and that's what it says here. Now, if you want to add a particular file to the staging area, this is the command you have to use. So what is the command? It is git add. So that's the two words you have to use, git add, and then you have to mention the file name. The file name here is my first code.txt. Okay, and when I say enter, now this is added in the staging area. And now once you have done that, let me just clear the file or clear this screen. Once you have added the file to the staging area, when you say enter now, you can see it says something. It says on branch main, makes sense. No commits yet, of course. But then it says changes to the committed. It says there is a new file added called first code. Now, is it available or is it committed? Not yet. This is not committed yet. It is just that this is into a staging environment. Yeah, if you want to unstage it, you can use something like this. You can say git rm cached file. To unstage, but we don't want to unstage it. We want to commit it. Now, how do we know that we have different commits? As I mentioned before, it also maintains the history, right? So whatever work you have done, so let's say in your project you have till now you have done 50 commits, and if you want to know all those commits, you can use a very simple command called git log. So with the help of git log, you can see all the initial commits, and you can see it says your current branch main, because that's my main branch, does not have any commits yet. So that means the file is there in your working directory. The file is also there in the staging, but not in the commit history. Now to achieve that, to commit this, we have to pass another command. And that command is very simple, which is the commit. Okay, so the thing is, one of the question you might be having, okay, so once we say commit, it means it goes into the local commit, right? But how many times we should do that? And after how many files edit? So normally, let's say if I can think about my project and if I'm working on one feature, I will be thinking, okay, once I complete this feature, I will say commit, right? So that's why the project will be stored. That's not the case actually. It depends upon a lot of different factors. You don't work alone, right? You work in a team. So sometimes your company defines how should you commit, how often you should commit. Your company defines what type of messages you should have. That's right. So for this commit, you have to also pass the message. So for this particular series, we are not going to see when to commit. It's just that we have to understand how do we commit. Again, when to commit is something you need to decide based on your project. But then there's a common saying, commit early and commit often, right? So we are doing committing here. Now, if you simply say git commit, you can see it will not, okay, it is giving you some message here. Please enter the commit message for your changes and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what I will do is I will just go back because this is the Vim. Okay, so abouting commit due to empty commit message. Basically, commit has not done. The thing is, when you want to commit, you have to make sure that you also pass a message. Of course, right? Every time you commit something, you have to specify what changes you have done there. So I can say, if you want to add message, you can say -m and then you can pass a message, my first commit. Now, of course, this type of messages should be logical. It can also defines what features you have added. Maybe you have resolved some bug, you can mention that there. Or I have seen few projects or few companies, they also follow something called issue tracking. So let's say if there's an issue created or some tickets created, you also mention the ticket number, which ticket you have resolved, okay, something like that. And when you say enter now, it says one filed change, one insertion. That's right. So basically we were able to do our first commit here. So this is your first commit. It says create a mode. This is the file name. And now this is getting tracked by Git. Okay, cool. After doing this, I will say git status, and now it says on main branch, nothing to commit, working tree clean. Okay, that's good. Now, if you observe, there is one thing here which I intentionally missed, which is this part. What is this number? That looks weird, right? See, the thing is, Git also provides you something called integrity. It means once you save something in a Git commit, you cannot change it without Git knowing about it. So basically, every time you want to make a change, Git will know that something has been changed. How? It basically follows something called a checksum. Now, checksum is something, imagine checksum as a fingerprint for the data. So example, if every time I change something in the data, it will change the checksum as well. Okay. Even if a small change in your code will change the checksum, and Git creates a checksum for every commit. So if you try to change something here in the commit itself, because of course a local file, right? If you make any changes, Git will come to know that, hey, it's not matching. You have made the changes, but I don't have any idea about it. So I have the older version. So basically checksum is very important. Now this is done with the help of SHA-1 and it creates not this number of characters, it creates 40 characters. Okay, out of which we only focus on the first 7. So if you can see, these are the first 7 hexadecimal numbers. So we got FD914D5. Of course, when you do it on your machine, you will get a different number, right? Because this is unique to this particular data. But behind the scene, this is not 7, this is 40 characters. To display, it is only showing the 7 characters here. Okay, now since we have done our first commit, let's try git log. So git log will give you the log of all the commits. When I say enter now, you can see it gives you, it shows something. It says, okay, what I will do is I will just clear this screen so that we'll only see this particular message. Okay, so let's see what it says. It says there's a commit. Okay, makes sense. And who is the author for this commit? This person, Naveen. And that's my email ID, which is hidden, which is blurred. And this is the date. So this is when I have done this commit. And now when you see different commits here, there's also something called header. Now this will make much more sense once we start working with branches. But at this point, we have head to main. And the message is my first commit. The more commits you do, you will see all those things coming up there. And every one have a different commit. And this is the 40 characters thing I was talking about. So that's 5, 10, 15. Oh, this must be 40. Okay. So we only see first 7, right? If you can see up here. So when we created this, this was the first 7 characters, right? It's matching with this, the first 7 characters, right? But then this is in general, or behind the scene is 40 characters. Now that's how basically you do your first commit. So that's it from this video where we have seen the first commit. In the next video, let's try to do something else with this and let's explore other commands.